go live. Scott, we are live in YouTube. In theory.
Theoretically, theory and conjecture, always great.
And we should probably go check our audio levels because we don't have a fancy producer to tell us audio levels.
Levels.
It actually sounds pretty good. I think we're good. I'm going to knock me down a little bit. I'm a touch louder.
Well, there you go. You made it.
All right, we're good to go. Mute the levels, play with the levels. If somebody else wants to join us, they can, and they can tell us if our levels are off. So, last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever we did this last, we played with Azure AD and Graph and PowerShell and switching from one module to the other. This week, I let you pick a topic.
You did, for sure. So we're going to do some Azure stuff this week. There's a what is a relatively newish concept to me in these things called VM applications. So they're specifically a construct that live within the Azure Compute Gallery, the artist, formerly known as the shared image gallery. And when I think the shared image gallery, even the compute gallery, I tend to think of a virtual machine, right? I stood up a Windows box, I deployed my roles on top of it, like maybe I deployed IIS or installed my application on it. And then, I went through the sysprep process, sealed it, and deployed it as a, quote unquote golden image within my environment and got it out there kind of thing.
Right.
But just in the same way that you can have VM images, you can also have VM applications and store applications in that gallery as well, which maybe goes a little bit above and beyond things you might do with existing VM extensions. So an existing VM extension for, say, like the PowerShell or the DSC extension, things like that. Sure, you can install applications, you can do all these things. But what if you need kind of basics like grouping and versioning? You want to package an application and have that actual deployment, like the bits to install the application, globally replicated, so they're nice and close to your infrastructure when you go ahead and do a deployment. Maybe you want to manage those through RBAC, all those good kinds of things. Or the other thing is enablement of installing packages where you might be limiting connectivity to the internet. So you kind of want to take this action through ARM and through the management plane and kind of control plane of ARM, and be able to do these things. So if you have super restrictive NSGs in place, you're not allowing maybe like global downloads from just random place on the internet. You can't stand up a storage account, or configuring private link, private endpoint is too much there. That's kind of where this whole beast of a thing sits.
Got it. And it looks like, so there's some overview documentation, and I don't know, I'll switch to mine because I was looking at this overview documentation. And another thing I see on here in this overview documentation is, and this is one I've run into, is this whole VM images with apps pre-installed. That's why I've done it. Like if I'm going to go deploy virtual desktop infrastructure, or even certain images with apps pre-installed, whenever you need updates to those apps, you need to essentially recreate your gold image, re-upload it, update that image, or you deploy an old version of your image, and then once it's deployed, you have to go install a bunch of updates. It sounds like this is a way to, just based on this first paragraph here, where you're actually breaking that connection, or you're not having those two is tightly set, where that application installation is now separate from your VM image, so you're not updating those gold images as much. Is that part of this as well?
It's a good way to think about it. So because VM applications are versioned, you kind of have this optionality in there to say, I always want to deploy version N of this package. Or you can do things like kind of be like evergreen, just point at a package and always deploy the latest version. Think maybe like a Docker container or something like that, like, tags on a Docker container. And, oh, I want to deploy latest versus I want to deploy V 1.0, V 1.1, V 1.2. So there's some intentionality there for you. And the nice thing about this is this kind of works alongside virtual machines and every flavor of virtual machines, or at least that's my understanding of it. So you have, your regular VM where you might have that single instance VM in that case, or think about like a VM scale set. So I have a scale set that comes up and I want to deploy a new version of my application. Well, rather than going in, like in your case, and rebuilding an entire image, uploading it to the gallery, pushing it around, getting it to where it needs to be, let's just update the application in place within, this VM application construct. And then I'm just going to tear down one of my VMSS instances, stand up a new one. And as long as I haven't specified a version, it's just going to grab whatever the newest one is and go ahead and install that. So I think it's like it's definitely got a place. It feels a little bit cleaner also. So beyond the I think kind of lessened operational overhead of hey, how do I manage applications and keep applications maybe a little bit separated from deployment of applications, and specifically like deployment of virtual machines, and how all that goes on. You also, like I said, you get that kind of package management or application management aspect of it, which is potentially a little bit easier to handle than doing something like a DSC deployment, or maybe like a custom script extension that then you had to go and update, or you had to go and update an Azure automation runbook, things like that. And the way this works, it handles executable installers, it handles MSI installers. You can install from zips on Linux boxes. You can handle installs from tarballs, so both tar and gzip files, or you can also do platform specific packages. So if you're running a flavor of Debian, you can do .debs. If you're doing Red Hat, like you're doing like rel or cent, you can totally do RPMs. There's lots of options there for you. Or
So
you could just use PowerShell or something like that to also deploy through that stuff. Is kind of the way it goes.
So I think of this, I'm being more a Microsoft 365 guy and thinking through kind of what you just described. Is this almost similar to how like Microsoft packages up Office on the desktop? And I guess I think of that in the aspect that when I go install Office now, I just have a super small installer, and whenever I install it, it goes out to the web and grabs the latest version. I can set up deployment packages where it goes and grabs a specific version. And a lot of those updates are just kind of, it feels like pulling from an app package sitting out in the background, where Microsoft maybe kind of took what they did with Office and created a service out of it. And this is kind of working in the same way. I don't know. And
A little bit.
obviously a
I think
lot
it's
more.
like it's concepts that you've definitely, I think, been introduced to before. Maybe to just bring it back, like if you read through it and think about it, like, have you ever done application deployments through GPOs? Right, I'm going to create
Yep.
a new group policy, and based on machines or you classes of users that come up, those are going to get certain applications installed. All those applications typically don't live in a golden image. They live out on maybe like a global share for the company, where you've controlled it. You've said, hey, I've got all the applications that our company uses sitting out here in this share. Well, replace share in your head with compute gallery. And you've just got this
Got it.
repository of applications. Except in the case of something maybe like the way Office is done, or the way you might have like that global SMB share that's sitting out there, that NFS share, whatever it happens to be. If you're going to do something like versioning, versioning is typically going to be like, I'm going to have file underscore 1.0.zip, file underscore 1.1.zip kind of thing, because you might
Right.
manage your version through naming or something like that. This is kind of like, I have an application and then I have these attributes and things that come along with it. So there's potentially a hierarchy there for you. So like you have it up on the screen now with the what are VM applications. It starts with the compute gallery. Like I need this resource, this Azure thing that is a compute gallery. And then within that compute gallery, I could have both virtual machine images, like, hey, I did the sysprep and kind of experience to get things going. Or I have applications, and then within those applications, I have this concept of application version. So the application defines what the application is. It's purely like logical, like a grouping construct, like, hey, what is the package? And then within that, you've got those application versions, and versions actually point to, like the installer resources and things like that. So they're actually the thing that says, hey, go here to install this.
Got it. And it looks like there are some limitations, just like with pretty much every service, in terms
With all things.
of, right, the size of your applications. There's a limitation here on the number of applications you can deploy, retries, um, replicas. But overall, I mean, for everything this entails, I feel like the limitation list is relatively small. There's a lot. It looks like there's a lot of functionality, a lot of freedom here in terms of how and what types of applications you would deploy. Um, Cost isn't even too bad. Like the app package, there's no extra charge for the app package service, but you're going to pay for storage. So, which makes sense. You're going to store these packages up in Azure. They're going to take up some storage space. You're going to have to pay for that. And then the network, as these image versions come down from the storage into replicated regions, and then maybe some egress as they get installed on the VMs.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it doesn't look too bad to get this up and going and running from a limitations or a cost perspective.
No, it's a tool in the toolbox. It's probably not going to be right for everything. Like I've done some pretty gnarly deployments in the past where you want to do something like stand up a VM, install SQL Server on it, and then do some configuration on SQL Server. And then once SQL Server's up and it's configured, now I need to maybe like restore some databases from a backup, and then I need to go configure some firewall rules, and then but like you have this multi-step thing which often requires like multiple reboots and all that stuff along the way. That's probably still more appropriate for DSC or running some type of idempotent like deployment script that you do through like a custom script extension, or heck, maybe you do that more traditional like golden image kind of thing with just, hey, let's do a kind of sysprep thing on Windows, or the Linux equivalent that Microsoft has for basically sysprepish stuff on the Linux side to seal and deploy. So it's a tool in the toolbox, but like I said, I've never been hands-on with it. So I figured it'd be fun to stand up a compute gallery and see if we can deploy an application.
See if we can get this going. So, is there anything else you want to cover in this overview documentation, or are you anxious to get your hands on it?
I say we just kind of dive
We
in
just dive
and,
in. All right.
and get
Here,
going
I'll
with it.
switch
Right?
over to you. Yes, we are live with your to the cloud stream resource group that I see you
Excellent.
have created here.
Yeah, that's it. That's where we are going to start. So empty resource groups. There's some prerequisites here, or a couple things that we need to kind of go out and install first. So I think for today, like this is kind of new to me. Let's just walk through the portal experience and do it that way. But for all this stuff, you should be able to do the majority of it through, if not all of it, through the CLI, through PowerShell. And certainly because you can do it through the portal, ultimately you can do it through the REST API or things like that if you want to as well. So before we can upload a VM application and kind of get it bootstrapped into a VM, we have to have a compute gallery. So let's go and find the Azure Compute Gallery. There it is.
All right, which
Great.
this is the one that used to be the shared image gallery. So just
Right. Yep. This is the
FYI.
artist formerly known as the shared image gallery. So this will be our what to the cloud gallery. We'll deploy to East US. We'll see if the got. Oh boy, here we go. Look at that right off the bat. We need
You
to
already got
register.
warnings.
We do. We already need to register a feature. Don't you love like when they come up with this error message and they don't actually tell you like here's how you register a
Right,
feature?
like
Like wouldn't it be nice
up
if they just had
above.
the button there?
Yeah, kind of like up above where it has the role-based access control and it has the learn more of what is this? How about we have a little link here of learn more or documentation on how to actually go register it. So, how do you
Yeah.
register this
Same thing.
subscription?
PowerShell, CLI, all that good stuff. We will do it. Let's see if we can do it through the portal. Uh, do, do, do. I can't register. Why can't I register here? Did I not get? I might have some permission propagation stuff or weirdness. I'll leave that window sitting here for a second and
So do
let me
you
see.
actually, cuz I don't remember doing this before. In here is there like a shared image gallery that you have to go do you have to go select one of the unregistered ones and click register?
Well, there is a. There should be a Microsoft Compute. Let's see. I can type today. Oh, it's a feature. It's not a resource provider. So let's fire up our friend ye old Cloud Shell here.
Cloud Shell.
Create myself a fancy new storage account.
Naturally, you have no storage. This is what happens when we start over with your brand new subscription or resource
That's
group.
the thing. I love how just janky the portal is sometimes. Like I want to drag this and I
Want it
can't do
bigger.
anything with
Well, you can go to your fancy URL. What? Cloudshell.shell.azure.com.
well, like this is
Then you can
great.
get
Like
your full screen.
I can't drag it. I can't do anything with it. It's being stupid. Ah, okay.
It's hiding.
So what is it? AZ feature? Do you remember these off the top of your head?
No. I don't use
All
the
right.
CLI
Well,
that much.
we're gonna have to Google Bing DuckDuckGo. So Azure CLI register feature.
This is weird. Apparently, I need to work on my scaling or Ecamm does. Like, I missed the very top and the very bottom of your screen, but it's okay.
I'll leave it to you for next time. Hey, look at that! The
Figure that
shared
out.
image gallery feature is the it's the
Is
first
the
one.
example. There must be lots of people
So
registering this.
yeah, so we have dash namespace and what do we got there? So AZ feature register
Register.
and dash dash namespace and then uh, dash dash or dash n for name. Okay, so we want to do AZ feature register dash dash namespace Microsoft dot compute and dash dash name or dash n direct shared galleries. That was one thing the portal told us. So we'll take that and run that. Oh, okay. Nice. Even though the compute is registered, it wants me to re-register it.
So, do you have to register the feature separate from the resource provider for compute?
Well, the feature direct shared could cannot be found. That's always fun. Let's go back over to our resource group. And we'll do a create here again. And we'll do Azure Compute Gallery. And create. And we're going to do the same thing to the cloud gallery. Us next. So we can't register that one. Can we do a
Can you still
community
do
gallery?
it? So you still have review and create. Are these warnings or are these actually like blocking errors?
No, it's actually telling me to create a
Because
thing
it
that doesn't exist. So when I did community galleries, here, let me make this a little bit bigger. So when I did community galleries here, it totally went through. When I did direct shared galleries, it
shared
told me,
galleries.
hey, that's not even a thing that exists. Uh, good
Maybe
luck
it's
to
an
you
up
there.
and coming feature. Because aren't direct so I was just reading those warnings while they were up, and it looks like that's only if you want to share images in certain scenarios. Like the direct share is across subscriptions and tenants, and the communities is public. So if we would move through this without actually doing that, would we be able to share these like inside of this subscription and inside of this resource group? We just wouldn't be able to share it at a broader level to like across multiple subscriptions or to maybe we're publishing these for some of our clients and we want to publish them to other tenants. Is
So
this just allowing us to do
you
it at different scopes?
you tell me, like, whatever person designed this UI flow, like, I hope they come back and watch this video, because this is
A little odd.
this is not good.
So,
Like when I sit here and I hit this screen, I'm like, oh, I can't do something here because it's thrown up an error message at me. Like, sure, I could go ahead and hit review and create, but like, what are these other things? Like, why
right.
am I not allowed to
Well,
hit these
that's
buttons,
what
kind
I'm
of thing?
wondering. Like, if you go back, can we go back to that screen once more? Will it let you go back to sharing? Like, I'm wondering if those two warning messages are correlating to the two grayed out boxes. Like, the community gallery to me points to that second radio box where it's share public community gallery previews. And then the shared directs, I mean, just looking at the feature as compute direct share, I'm wondering if you actually registered those, if you'd be able to select those other two options. And because they aren't registered, you only can do that role based access.
Yeah, well, let's see, because I did get that one registered. So even though the documentation is not great and the error message isn't great, since it points you a feature that doesn't exist again. So let's do to the cloud gallery. Third time's the charm, right? Next, share nothing.
Unless one is a
No,
prerequisite. Is one a prerequisite of the other?
I don't know. It doesn't say. There's nothing in the documentation about it. Uh, Good luck to you if
Well,
you can figure it out.
if I can figure it out, let's find the owner and send them this video and say, please help. Okay. Anyways,
All right. Anyway, let's go create a compute gallery now that we've got. But the funny thing is, when you're in the documentation for creating a gallery, the
uh
very
huh.
first example, which is why I started going down this path, is creating a private gallery, which is then followed by the create a direct shared gallery, which totally has the screenshots that we just went through. But RBAC, but shared directly in the screenshot, doesn't have preview on it. And the other one did. And then don't get me started on like those labels are all wrong. Like, why is preview all in caps on one and yelling at me, but it's just sentence cased on the other, and
On
blah
the
blah blah.
other,
Like, I don't uh I don't get it.
I,
All right. So
excuse me, I have no opinion. Well, I have
right.
opinions. I have no clue why.
All right. So cool. So at this point, we have a gallery. And the other thing that it wants us to have done already is uploaded our application to a storage account. I love this because it doesn't tell you like anything about it. Like, I think for like onboarding somebody who's new to this stuff, like they should totally explain all these concepts. Like, you should actually have a tutorial that says, "Here, create a storage account. Step one, step two, step three. Here, create a compute gallery." Step
But
one, step
but then what
two,
would we
step
do,
step
Scott?
three.
If they had all
Kind
that,
of
we wouldn't be able to create how-to videos on how to do it.
uh, yes. So this will be interesting. So we also need to byte align our files. And I don't know why this particular requirement exists. Um, so let's switch over to PowerShell here. I wonder if we can do all this through the Cloud Shell. So let's just go grab an MSI installer. What would something good
Doesn't
be?
Edge have an MSI? Go grab the
Let's just do
Edge for
something
Business.
light, like 7-zip or something like that. So let's do a 7-zip 64-bit. So let's copy that. And let's just do a wget. Great. All right. So now we have an MSI here. And like I said, they have some example PowerShell that you can run in the documentation. So the file that I want to grab is that 7-zip MSI.
Input
So
file.
we'll
And
do that. And
yeah,
then we'll
if you're
put that
watching
in.
this too, this is right now, you're just following the documentation from Microsoft on create and deploy VM applications. So we'll put a link to the documentation that you're using in the description for this video, but there's no guarantees that we're not going to do something that's not in the documentation because Microsoft didn't document it properly.
Exactly. And then this shouldn't do anything because so just checking the remainder there, it was already a byte align file. So
Vitaline, got it.
yes, so first byte was already 0 there. So I think we're good on that. I'm not actually gonna bother with like trying to rip this file down out of my cloud drive or something like that. So now let's go back to our resource group, and it says we need a storage account. So let's just create like an LRS, like bog standard storage account. So we'll create that. I still love that, like all these years into the portal experience too. Please, if anybody manages the portal and you're listening to me, like I'm in a resource group, I'm in a subscription, just default this
Default it.
stupid resource group to the current one that I'm in. Like, please, please, please do that. So to the cloud gallery, we'll do a bad thing and we'll name all our resources the same exact thing, LRS. Actually, let's just make this like str. Is that going to be less than 15 characters? Yes. Just so we know that this is our gallery storage. We should be good with all of the default stuff here. I'm not going to worry about soft delete. But you should absolutely, if you're a regular person, leave all of that stuff on. We don't need HNS or anything else. So just a call out here. Your application has to be stored in a certain type of blob. So Azure Storage supports block blobs, it supports append blobs, and it supports page blobs. You have to make sure that you upload this MSI as a page blob. So let me go ahead and just download that MSI real quick. So I've got it locally. Great. My storage account is here. Storage browser, blob containers. And we'll call this applications.
Applications. And then this does, so you can do this publicly available too when you go create the storage account to pull this application down, or you need a SaaS URI, which makes sense, right? Like when you go create this VM application, somehow you need to be able to access the storage account.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Basically, the
And
process of getting it in, it's the process of getting it into the compute gallery. It needs to be public. But back to some of those other things and use cases for this, the VM application itself, like it's going to pull the installer out of this thing.
then
And you've
put
done
it
this
in
pre-rack
that
of making
VM
sure it's byte aligned.
app.
But yeah, and it's going to put it in that VM app resource, that logical construct thing, whatever that is. All right, so we
So
have a
because I like
storage account.
asking difficult questions, in theory, if you're using a SaaS URI, could you pull this over a private endpoint?
Well,
I
private
would,
endpoints implies that you've turned off public access usually.
right? Well, because it says public availability or a SaaS URI. I wasn't sure
So
if.
so I think what they're saying there is public availability, like on a container itself. I can say
Yep,
this container is public or private,
it's public or
like
got it.
in the actual like container properties at the time I create it, or I can have this thing and it can be in a private container, but I can generate a SaaS URI that allows anybody to download it
Anybody
as
to
long as
access it.
the storage account is publicly accessible. So I'm just gonna scroll down here. Do. I don't actually know like when the SaaS token comes in here. Like it's not very clear to me why it's telling me to do all this. So why don't we just leave this window open and we'll create a new one here just so I can come back later if I need to. I think we're all
Select the
done with the
VM
easy
app.
feature stuff. So let's go to our gallery again. So we've got our compute gallery here, and I want to create a VM application definition. So hey, got the right resource group this
It
time. That's
defaulted to
good.
your resource group. It remembers.
Maybe
It
it's because I'm
heard
in the
you.
resource that's in the thing. It listened to me. So this will be our, this will just be 7-zip. We're in East US. This is an MSI, so we're doing Windows. This is the 7-zip x64 MSI installer. End of life date.
And this is all for the VM
Yeah,
application, right? So if someone goes and looks for it, they could see, oh, this application has a end of life of a certain date, or this is the EULA for the specific application we're publishing, privacy URIs, especially if you would go in and publish these to the public
the
gallery.
community
I would think
gallery.
you'd
Yeah.
really want all of this stuff on there. So people aren't pulling old images expecting them to work, and you sunsetted that particular image.
Yep, that's it. So now that resource is there. So if I go back and I look at my resource group, I've got my storage account, which had my MSI uploaded to it. I've got my gallery. And then within my gallery, I can see now if I go from the get started to the definitions tab,
Yep.
now I've got this definition down there. So if I come into that, now I can create a VM application version. So let's just call this 1.0 just to make things easy. All right, source application package. Is it just going to let me browse my storage account? Because now I don't even need a SaaS URI. There we go.
So could
That's
you
nice.
potentially, so if you couldn't browse it, I wonder if potentially you could just copy and paste the SaaS URI in there?
Yeah, you should be able to. Same kind of difference. It looks like it's just gonna grab it out of there. All right, so this is interesting. So we need an install script, an uninstall script, and an update script. Why
Oh, at least
do
there's a link in the documentation for an overview of how to create one.
no, it doesn't actually show you how to create one.
Oh, you're right. It just
It link
brings you to the.
it link it links you over to the command interpreter. So in our case, we're installing to Windows. So I think it should be, let's see. So 7-zip silent install. How would we do a silent install? For the MSI installer, use the /q installer blah blah blah. So I think if I'm reading this right, we should be able to do something like this. Like I'm going to do a PowerShell command. So I want to call that, but I want to specifically call the, oh, look, it generated a SaaS URL when I browsed it. So yeah,
Oh,
that is just
interesting.
that is just
Okay.
a SaaS URI that you go ahead and paste in there. So I think theoretically, you probably want to test all this locally. Like, hey, let me make sure I've got my commands all ready to go, kind of thing. I'm only really interested in
So
installing this, so I think just for the purposes of the exercise, like we'll leave the uninstall script the same, but that should totally call a different thing to get it to go.
what about
What?
this, Scott? What I have up here? Do you need to do like the whole start? You know, MSI installers, you use like the MSI exec.exe.
No, it's been a while since I've done it all.
So I remember doing, what did I do this for? When I was packaging up, like, I think I was playing around with this when I was doing an MSIX package for AVD or something. I can't remember. But like remote installs of MSIs, you end up doing something like this, which it is in that page it linked to. You just have to go way down to MSI installers. And it talks through command line execution of MSI installers to add or remove.
There we go. Yes. So the commands should use MSI exec. You are correct. So let's change this up a little bit. So we want to do this, and we would like to do /q installer equals that. So it should just be something like that then. So
Yes, I
MSI
believe
exec,
so.
call my application package, which should be
Did you throw
right
the
there.
dash? Oh, I think you need the /I between your MSI exec and your MSI. Because I think you have a /I for install, and it looks like a /X for uninstall. If I'm remembering my MSI exec and reading
Oh,
my documentation.
you're being very
Yeah,
difficult
right
here.
there. I am
Only
being
they,
difficult.
if only they
Want it
made
to work.
this easier, right? So then we do /q, blah blah blah.
And then
Theoretically,
it's
that all works.
and then it's like the exact same thing, only a /X for an uninstall of a
So
MSI.
slash
Oh, other
do
one.
slash
You can leave
x,
the
and
/Q.
we'll just cut all that off.
You can do a /Q though for that. Oh, you took everything off. I,
Yeah.
do you need a /Q? Do you want it to still be a silent uninstall? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Shouldn't matter, right? It's running in the background
Okay.
someplace. I mean, if we really want to be explicit about it, sure, we'll do
I
that.
don't know.
No.
I'm just making stuff up.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm sure there's some way with like this whole thing is gonna blow up because like MSI exec probably has some different command line options, package, blah 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 blah, arguments. No. So I think that should get us to where we need to be there. Okay, so we have our application ready to go. We have an install script. We have an uninstall script. We don't need an update script. If you have a default config file, in this case, we don't have a default config. I would assume like maybe that's like an INI file or something like that, or like a JSON configuration. We do want this to be the latest version, so we won't exclude it from the latest. And then much like my
So what does exclude from
application,
latest do? Is that like if you'd want to test, do like a testing it, so not everything would pull down latest, you could pull it down as an explicit version
Yeah,
but
so
not
exclude
full
from latest would
latest.
be if I don't want this version to appear as the latest version when I create the VM. So yeah, for some reason I didn't want this to be the latest thing. So I think I said we would just expire
Yeah.
December 31st. So that's fine. Who cares? Replication. I think we're fine with like just one replica and local redundant. Just know that you can do zone redundant storage. You can push things out to additional regions. Like, if I wanted to have this again, geo replicated globally kind of thing. So it would be LRS storage, but then replicated out into LRS or ZRS accounts that are managed by this service, is what I take it to be, in N kind of regions. So that should get us far
Right.
enough.
Well,
Let's
and
go
this was
ahead
the
and create.
limitation where I think you can go up to three. Oh, it's three replicas per region. So you should be able to do unlimited number of regions, but no more than three replicas in any one of those regions.
Which is ZRS, right? Like you've got the
Right.
ZRS, 3 AZs kind of thing. So if you have a region with AZs, then you're all set and ready to go. So when this uploads and does its thing, theoretically, the next step is we should be able to just go deploy a VM kind of through the next portal experience. Doop, doop, doop,
What does my learn more?
doo.
Oh, it's like a circular link.
A circular
I
link.
think. Oh
What'd
no,
you
this
do?
goes. Oh, that goes down there. I was just clicking, so I got to the very end of. I was
You made it. You made
walking
it to
through
the
all the
bottom past all the
documentation. I
troubleshooting and all that.
Yeah, and then I clicked the next link, and I thought it went back to the beginning, but I think it no. So learn how to create and deploy VM application packages, and then you go all the way down to the bottom of learn how to deploy and learn more about VM applications, and it goes back to the overview. See this? So it's a circle. It just bounces back and forth between two articles.
Which
So
is
how do you actually
absolutely
add this on a
brilliant.
VM then? Because this doesn't have anything on how to install it, or
Well, we're gonna get to that step next because that is
you're going to show me how to do that.
that's in the create and deploy VM applications article. So here, just while we're waiting for that resource to deploy, so that's in this one over here. So it's the same one that had that PowerShell script. So as you're going through it, you've got step one, create the VM
Okay, so we
application.
did all that.
Yep. And then it's kind of embedded in there. So it says, hey, hit review and create. And now, like, we've got all that exclude from latest stuff kind of here. And then just embedded right within these instructions is now you can create a VM. So it should
Oh,
be on
got it.
the advanced tab of a VM. There should be a select a VM application
Application.
to install.
Got it.
Um,
So it's right there
so
where you set up like extensions that you would put on a VM. Only now you have extensions and app packages.
Yep. So let's see if that is actually the case. So let's go back to our resource group here. It looks like our deployment is complete. Yeah. So now I can see I've got my gallery. This is kind of messy, right? Like that I have my gallery and all of these are resources as well. Like I thought maybe these would be proxy resources, so they would live
Right.
inside the gallery resource, kind of like a storage account. A storage account has tables, files, queues, blobs, but you have to go into the storage account, the storage browser to see those things. Not the same here. So, like one thing I would take away from this is if I want to use this, I would be creating my own resource group just to host the gallery in. And I would be
Right.
very
You almost
intentional in my naming.
well, or could you even put because when you this would be interesting. Oh, it looks like based on that naming, like could you actually have a resource group just for the app packages, for the application definition and all of that, or is that forced to be in the same resource group with your gallery?
Well, I have another resource group in here called storage demo. No, it has to be in the same resource group as my gallery or
As the gallery.
as a gallery. I don't know the gallery, but this is
Right. One
filtering
of
down to, yeah,
yeah.
that
Whatever
same one.
gallery you want it in.
Yep. So that gets messy kind of quick. But anywho, let's create a what do you want to create? You want to do a nice new Windows
A
server?
Windows. Sure.
If we do
Probably
2019,
not a
22?
core. I don't know
No.
that you'd want to
Yeah.
try to do an app package on a core VM.
So let's do Windows Server. Oh my God, this list gets worse every single time I'm in here.
Yes.
Like,
So,
who the
although I
heck?
don't know that the CLI, like, does the CLI really make this any better? Because if you don't have
No.
this and you use the CLI, now you need to like output the whole list of them, and then you still have to sort through it in the CLI to figure out what you want to pass as your parameter for your image to deploy. They
Yep.
have got to fix this so it's not a drop down, and it is like a filterable, sortable, groupable list.
All right. So this is going to be our to the cloud 7-zip VM, East US, no redundancy. Who cares? Standard security. Yeah, we don't need confidential compute, anything like that. Not worried about Azure Spot. Let's just leave this as defaults. That should be fine. And spin up kind of quick. Uh, oh, geez, it's gonna kill me here, isn't it? Uh, uh, let's go with that. Nobody's ever gonna use that. I'm gonna have to remember my janky password. We'll do the thing we're not supposed to do and leave RDP open to the internet just so I don't have to deploy Bastion or something like that.
Yeah,
When I'm all ready to go, premium SSD, that's fine. We're gonna delete this and clean it up. We shouldn't need any additional disks. Networking, I'm just gonna go with the standards. Like I don't want to go through the whole rigmarole of
you're gonna default your NIC so you don't need to delete a bunch of resources, or you're
yes.
just gonna blow away your whole
Yeah,
resource group.
that's it. We're gonna do one big atomic delete when we're done with this sucker. Boot diagnostics, that's fine. We'll leave that on. I don't think we'll need any guest diagnostics. Azure AD, we're not worried about. Just for my own sanity, we are in the East US, and just in case I forget to turn this off, let's have it go off at 6 p.m. tonight. I don't need a notification. Kill me. Yep. Automatic. Great. All right. So this is where we
Advanced.
are. So we have extensions and now we have VM applications. So if I select a VM application, it automatically groups them by gallery, or I can not group them at all. So here's my galleries here. So if you happen to
Okay.
have multiple galleries within the subscription, here's my latest version because I didn't select the exclude from latest checkbox. So I could deliberately deploy a version of this, like 1.0.0, 1.0.1, whatever it happened to be. In this case, we'll say just give it the latest. That's fine. We don't have any custom data, review and create. This is going to cost me nothing and go.
Is there any guidance on how long it can take to deploy? Because I know extensions, I think they say 2 hours, right? A VM extension can take up to 2 hours to deploy. Um,
Since when? I've never heard that. I've
Usually they go
always
quick. I'm
I've
gonna go
always
look
relied on
now.
them to be there fairly quickly. Like I've never seen like you're talking like a custom script extension or things like that to run. Like that shouldn't take 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's on the
Well,
order
I
of
think that's like
something
their SLA thing.
something stupid is happening in the fabric. I mean, generally, like you should see that VM come up pretty quick. Like I don't know if you've noticed this, just kind of like general aside, but VM boot times in Azure have drastically improved over the years. Like I remember starting back in the good old days of Classic, ASM versus the whole ARM thing. Like a VM could take like a good 10, 15 minutes to boot. That wasn't unheard of. ARM, when it started out, 10 minutes, 5, 10 minutes. Like there was some variability there depending on the VM size you chose. Like how long was it going to take me to, or take ARM to find a relevant host in a data center and pick the place you're going to deploy all those kinds of things. Like these things boot relatively quickly now, like on the order of just a few minutes. Like I've seen them come up in like less than 2 minutes sometimes. Like there, I think like there's some pre-staging or something that happens now, but that's all really good stuff, right? Like if it makes my deployment faster, then I'll take it every day. I just haven't seen anything, written about that to say like, oh yeah, these are deliberate steps we're taking to improve VM boot times. But so we'll let that go. What else do we have over here in the documentation? So we deployed. So once this comes up, we should be able to go to the extensions page and then kind of go ahead and see it running through. And I think that'll be
So
most of it.
here it is, Scott. A script is allowed 90 minutes to run in a custom script
Yes. Yeah.
extension.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not
There
necessarily
are
saying that it
timeouts there.
will take that long, but it could. So I wasn't sure if this was something similar where there is, in theory, it should go pretty quick, but there are. It's essentially saying it potentially could take longer. It does have longer to run.
Well, let's go back to those limitations. Usually things like that are documented there. So we talked about the 3 replicas per region, retrying. So the only way is to remove an application from the VM profile, 5 applications for VM, 1 gig, no guarantees on reboots. That's fine. Requires VM agent. Yeah, it doesn't say. I'd imagine in
Uh-uh.
most cases, because your install script is just running, it's not this massive like PS1 or Bash script that you're running like you might with the custom script extension. It's really like in this case, call MSI exec and run this MSI or run this executable, do an RPM install, those kinds of things.
Right.
Yay! And our VM is theoretically there. I 100% bet it's still booting, but whatever. So let's go ahead and take a look at our
Oh,
VM
it says
applications.
provisioning succeeded.
Provisioning succeeded. Yes. Cool. It's its own VM app extension type, so it's not relying on like the custom script extension or anything like that. Like I
Okay.
don't recall. I don't recall seeing this whole cplat.core VM
Yeah,
application
I don't know
piece
that I've
in
seen
there.
that one before either.
So let me
So is it
go.
time to RDP in? Are you gonna go connect and see if it's there?
I gotta remember where my remote desktop app is on this machine that I'm on. And this is maybe where I should have done Bastion, just so we don't have to do window hopping and things like that. But give me a second here.
Here, I can
So
pull
what
up.
is
Do you want me to? Oh, you have to give me your username and password.
yeah?
But
So
if you want
what
to send that to me,
is
I can RDP in on my side too.
nope? To the cloud. No, I don't want. I'm gonna go here and look at this wonderful messy resource group. I just want to copy that IP address right there. We'll do a PC quick connect. User connect. And continue. So if I share a new window in here for you, I assume you'll be able to pick that up and bring it in.
Sorry, what was that? Say that
I'm
again.
gonna
I got
share.
distracted.
I'm gonna stop my share here, and I'm gonna share a new window for you.
Yes,
So
it should
hopefully that
pick it
just
right up.
comes into the screen.
Hopefully, maybe.
It's a black screen right now, but you
Here
should
it
see
comes.
Windows coming up in a second. Yeah.
Yes,
Ah,
the scaling might be a bit odd, but oh, the scaling is way odd.
it is. That's a Scott thing, not a. All right, so let's take a look and see. Do we have 7-zip on here? I don't see it yet.
I don't either. Although I
Doot,
can only
doot.
see like a quarter of your screen, so
Well, I mean, you can see the start menu.
I can see the start menu, and I don't see
There we go.
anything before M.
Yeah. So our install directory, we told it to go to program files. Yeah, I don't know why it's not resizing here, but that's okay.
Resizing properly.
So C : program files. Didn't land there. Uh, uh, Overview, VM applications. And let me hop back to the portal and see if that extension ever finished going.
I thought it said it had succeeded, didn't it?
It said the extension succeeded, not the actual like deployment through.
The
So
deployment of it.
provisioning of the extension succeeded, but that doesn't mean that the installer ran and my install script was right and all that kind of
We
stuff.
could go look at Windows event logs because those are fun to dig through.
Because that's what you want to do. So we want to go to we want to go to this. So if I hop back over to oh no, this is gonna get messy for us. Ah, let's see. Let's drag this window over here and go like that. So core.cplat and we should
There's
have
it looks like I see an
downloads.
uninstall script.
So it downloaded. I'll take that much. It totally came in.
So if you go back to downloads, there was like an install. Oh no, maybe it was in 7-zip. Right there. Is that install? Is that your 7-zip?
Yep. So that moves the
Oh, that
application
moves. So that's not
launcher.
your like MSI ex or MSI exec.exe script though.
No, nope. It is not. Well, let's see.
So I would bet we had something wrong in our install
in
script.
our
That
in
would be
our
my
install
guess.
script. Yes, which happens quite a bit. Like it's really weird when you go to like if you've ever done custom script extensions and had to
Uh-huh.
debug those, like what ran, when did it run, kind of thing, right? So
It's
what it
a
says
pain.
is the download directory. It says in the download directory it is supposed to have the install script here. Um, so that's really
Oh,
weird. I don't know
that's
what it. I don't know what this thing is that it just kind of
right. Like
sat
we have
here.
no
Right.
file extensions or anything on any of those.
Yep. And it doesn't look like it wrote anything to the output. I mean, these are all 0 bytes. They're not going to have
Or the
anything in
errors.
them. Yep. It just didn't do anything. Do do do.
Treat failure as a treat failure as deployment failure. The VM application extensions always returns a success, regardless of
Hey, there
any
you go.
application being installed. The VM application extension will only report the extension status when there's a problem with the extension or the infrastructure.
Oh, so we missed a critical part in the documentation. I said in the documentation, like when we did the install command, it
Uh
said
huh.
that we should, we put in that MSI exec piece.
Yep.
There's a critical component on file naming way at the top, which is totally disconnected from the rest of those script things, which talks about here. We can switch back to the web browser here. Give me a second. I'll stop sharing that and
Oh, I
I'll
suppose I could
share.
have brought up the web browser too. I still have it here.
Nope, that's fine. So we do limitations. So we've got this part right here on the download directory. So that all worked out. It downloaded,
Of the file
and then the very
naming.
next piece is the file naming. So regardless of what file name is used in the storage account, it's always going to be renamed back to my app or my app config. So in our case, I called my VM application 7-zip. So even though it's like 7-zip blah 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 .msi in the storage account,
Uh-huh.
the VM application would be just 7-zip. And then I think this is a pretty critical piece here. The install, update, remove commands must be written with the following in mind. So when you come down here, that's why I was like looking at all these and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like I'm not doing a my app thing, right? I'm just so they did MSI exec / my app. So yeah,
Oh, so we like almost it's almost like a literal copy and paste of that string
almost
because we don't
you
care what
replace
our
the
file
thing.
name
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So configuration properties. Let's see. Well, none of this is going to help me.
And
What
of
I'd really
course we
like
can't
here
like
is
go in and update
I
it.
well, I'd really love to be able to like
Edit.
just copy this piece, right? So I bet we can fix this pretty quickly though. Like if so we've got /i and we did /q and then we had a 7-zip silent install. So if I come back to one of these wonderful resources, which one was it?
Was it the
Not
definition?
this
The VM
one, this
application
one.
definition?
Yep. So in my definition here, I'm going to create a new version and let's call this 2.0.0. And we'll do the same thing. Let's browse for our application package. Select. So now I know I'm not calling that. I'm just calling it 7-zip. And then I've got my little bit after that for my installation directory, which is going to be that. And then we can take that whole thing, and our uninstall command was just going to be /x. And we'll do that quietly. We don't need to worry about the installer, default configuration, exclude from latest, blah, blah. End of life date. It's December 31st for consistency tags. So this is interesting. So even though it's the same definition, I guess, I could have versions of it that are replicated differently. So I could have like version 1 replicated to East
Oh,
US, version 2
interesting.
replicated to West US, because the versioning is all at that level. So now my question would be, I shouldn't have to
Can
redeploy the
you
VM. I should just be able to uninstall the extension and then install the new extension, right?
I would think so. How do
Well,
auto updates work if you deploy latest? Is there like an auto update of the latest one too?
well, in the case of like VMSS, like if I was just saying, hey, deploy this extension with this thing, it would always go ahead and grab the
Uh-huh.
latest unless I specified a version kind of thing. So let me go back to my VM here. So extensions, I've got this
Well, in theory, you could probably
extension.
just leave it there, couldn't you?
I don't know. I thought there was something in the troubleshooting that said, like, hey, this needs to be deployed again. When you update an application version, the update command you provided during the deployment will be used. If the updated version doesn't have an update command, then the current version will be removed. and the new version will be installed. Update command should be written with the expectation that it will be updating from an older version of the
So we
application.
didn't write an update command. So it sounds like if we go or install 2.0, 1.0 will automatically be uninstalled.
It should, but
That's
how
the
do
way
I
that.
how do I
So
nuke that
add up at the
extension?
top.
Oh,
Well, so can't you just
yes.
do an add and then do a.
You would think. Yeah. Why would we be able to do
um
so? So VM app or more. No, because I think it's tied into the deployment experience. I mean, maybe from like the command line, but I don't want to have
Oh,
to
VM
go.
applications. Click your next tab. Those tabs are stupid. Up at the top. No, up above that. Next to extensions, there's a VM application tab. Oh no, go back
There
where you
it.
were. Go back into
uh,
extensions. VM applications. Add application.
add, add an application. Let's see. Is my 2.0 is there? Yep. So I want to do the latest. And install order, no preference.
So this
Oh,
is where you
I
could,
got
in
you.
theory, click the uninstall to
Yep.
uninstall your.
So
So
we
the
could.
extension is just the VM application extension, and then the applications themselves are under these. Since we've been talking about the UI and things we wish they would fix, that's the other one. Those, like when they have text next to each other like that are really tabs, but there's no indication that they're tabs. I've had so many people miss that, like VM applications as a link and extensions as a separate link, because it just looks like more text on the page. Anyways,
Yeah. So. All right. So I have no applications. I'm going to add that one now. Oh, we're broken. Call support.
way to go.
I confused it. It's a good thing we followed all the
Yeah, you did.
documentation and it works seamlessly. When in doubt, hard refresh the portal. You latest version, save. Aw.
Don't you love
Oh, he
correlation
likes me.
IDs that do you absolutely no good?
Right? Like, what the heck am I supposed to do with that? So it did. I was on the VM kind of watching it. So the download directory did clear itself out when I deleted it. Like that part did
Oh, when you
clean
did the
itself up.
uninstall?
Yep. So when we did the delete through the VM application piece there,
What if
it'd be
you select
intentional. So I'm gonna
2.0?
do
Yeah.
2. Yeah, no, it's not gonna let me do it. Well, you know what we do in that case? We delete the VM and I have read and we delete. And we'll deploy it again just with the same name here. So let's go back to our resource group and we'll create a new VM again real quick. Windows Server. It looked like that was kind of sort of almost there and ready to work for us. Windows Server, and we did 2022 Azure Edition. Start. What does that start with a preset configuration thing? Have you ever seen
Start
that
with a
before?
preset. I
Did,
missed it.
did, did, did you see that? So if I go back
I was
here,
looking the other way.
see this big button? Start with a preset
Yeah.
configuration. What does that do?
Huh. I don't know.
I
Can
don't know either.
you come
So
up with
this
some
is
presets for a bunch of these dialog boxes? Like
yeah, oh yeah,
default
you can
resource
totally
group and default
you can
region? I
totally.
bet that's what that is.
Have you never done that before? Created the kind of your own UI in the portal here to walk through?
I don't think I have. No. Should we do that on
That's
another one of these videos?
maybe that's another one that we should do. So Windows Server, no infra required. Sure. My other VM deleted, so that's fine. Oops. That's, oh no, oh no. Success. All right, we're gonna next, and next. We're not gonna worry about that. And just in case, again, we're gonna be 6 p.m. and I am Eastern time. I don't need to be notified. Select an application to be installed. 7-zip, review and create, and go.
And here we go again.
Here we go again.
The deployment
Every
is in
time.
progress.
It'd be too easy if this stuff just worked on the first try. Like we almost had it down.
Right. And we almost kept our recording to an hour, but we're going to be a little over an hour again.
I'm really glad I picked this one, and I told you, it's going to be easy. It's only going to take us like 30 minutes.
Right? You did tell me this one was going to be short today.
Yeah. Well, wait until I pick a long one. All right. So what else could we have screwed up there? So our MSI is going to run.
The only other thing we could have messed up would be that script.
That this VM application always returns a success. Like that's absolutely crazy to me. That it does that. It should at least know that it wasn't able to call the MSI or exe installer or things like that. Like there, because it like you saw the files there, right? Like it had like the standard air and the standard out.
Right.
Like it should be at least able to capture that output and bring it back to the portal for you. But of course,
but this is a little deceptive.
Set it.
Sorry, keep going, and then I'll have my thoughts.
I mean, it looks like you can somehow turn it around with a flag, but I don't know. That's kind of crazy to me because that makes this stuff useless. So get the status of your VM extensions. Like, what is that going to tell you if it's success 100% of the time? Like that doesn't like. So these two are useless. Like, cut this whole section. Error messages may be helpful if it actually spits some of those back, but all these error messages don't actually look like they're for deployment. These look like they're for creation of those resources, right? I wasn't able to access the SaaS URI, the blog doesn't exist. These are all things that are happen when you create the VM application definition and you're creating the actual application versions and all that stuff.
Well, but so going back to that extension, as we were looking through the UI, it kind of makes sense because the extension is going to only be deployed once, regardless of applications and application updates, right? Like, isn't the extension that agent that allows you to do app installs? So that's simply telling you, yes, the agent for VM app installs is deployed and successful, so that you're allowed to add 1 or 5 different applications. And as you maybe would deploy a second, a third, a fourth application later, it's not like it's redeploying the extension. It's just leveraging that extension to do the actual app install.
Sure, but I think that's forgiving that this is garbage guidance. Like this doesn't do anything for me if it doesn't actually tell me the status of what happened on the VM. Like, what's the point of having the agent if the agent can't report status of the actions that the agent is supposed to take? If the agent can't report status to me, then it's kind of useless in the grand scheme of things.
But what if the agent goes to deploy 5 applications and 2 of them fail and 3 are successful? Should the agent just report a failure then?
I want to be able to query the agent, and I want to be able to maybe like walk like an array, right? Give me sub 0, sub 1, sub 2, and show me the individual status of those things
And that
as
comes out
they
of the extension. See,
come
I would
together. Yeah.
say it could be in the extension, but couldn't they also just put that in that application screen that we looked at where we have the uh, control of the
Sure,
uninstall,
but
add install?
either way, based on the way this appears to be architected, that needs to
It
be
doesn't have it.
that needs to be the agent that surfaces that information to you, right? So
Got
I
it.
think just from like from a pure like I'm somebody who deployed this and I want to troubleshoot it, this doesn't troubleshoot anything.
Right. The fact that
It,
you actually need to RDP into the VM to view any status of the app install is where the failure lies.
yeah. So let's look at, so this is VM2. So our app extension succeeded by design. It
Oh, see, but
says
this
my
says the
install was
install status.
successful.
So
Well,
that one,
it said my install was successful last time too, though.
right. So that's the one that's the failed, like, that needs to be fixed.
Yep. So is it says my VM's running, but it's not letting me get all the way to it. So
Do you have the right username and password?
this stuff moves around. Networking. All right. RDP inbound allowed on that NIC. So it should be good once it comes up.
Did you update your RDP console, RDP client to the right IP address of the new VM?
I did. I'm good like that. That I remember to do. Now, if only I remembered I even remembered to change the size of it this time just for you.
Oh, fancy. Look at you.
Yeah, it might fit on the screen. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share once again. And that should start coming through in just a second for you.
I see it coming up.
You see a nice black screen and
I see
fclip.exe.
a yes. There we go. Now I see the recycle bin in the background.
Yay. All right.
The start button gets
So
clipped. Oh, look at your start menu, Scott.
I know, I see it. You like that, right? Like
I do. I got excited.
when you read the manual out of order, it will all work beautifully for you.
Look at
Hey,
that.
we have a 7-zip install. So now, just because we're here and because we can, let's go back to just that installation directory where all the resources downloaded to.
Oh, right. And see how that
Yep.
looks.
So downloads, 7-zip, 2.0.
Looks the exact same.
I don't know how how the extension would ever know if it actually installed anything, since it doesn't write anything. Like I would at least want to see in like the standard out, like, hey, I ran the command. I understand, like I ran
Right.
MSI exec for the quiet, but at least like give it back here, right? Like maybe tell me the command that it ran or things like that. Like throw me a bone, please.
It's interesting that it doesn't even have a file extension on the 7-zip
No,
app
they
too.
strip
Like,
they strip it all off. So that's a really weird one. So whatever package file name becomes, it just comes down that way without any extension, which is very strange.
huh.
I wonder why they made that step. Maybe it makes it easier, like if your MSIs are all kind of funky, but being that you do an install script per version, I don't know why that would be a big
Right.
problem. Like I
Could
could
there
see if
be
it was
any
one kind of Uber and install script to rule them all. But that's pretty cool.
could there
Like,
be
hey,
any
you've got 7-zip
security
there,
stuff
and
there?
like we saw last time, we can uninstall it too. What's that?
Could there be any security reason there? Like, if it was an MSI and you let's say you went in and you created some malware or some virus and named it 7zip.msi and were able to inject it in there and somehow cause the extension to do a reinstall. Like, is there some security reason you would do that? I'm just spitballing.
Mm, I don't know. I need some Windows person to tell me. So just because you didn't get to see it last time, so I'm over in the portal. So I'm going to go run the
Okay.
delete on that VM application again. And let's go ahead and take that out. And theoretically,
So you're in the 7-zip
you...
folder. Will it fail because you have the 7-zip folder open? Do you need to go
Nope.
up? Oh, no.
Nope. See, so
There it
all it
goes.
did was it removes that subfolder, and boom, 7-zip is gone.
Can you reinstall it now that we have our installer and we know it works? Or does it still fail when you try to do a reinstall?
Let me do it real quick. 7-zip, no preference, save. No, it says it's going to do it this time. So it says it popped in really quick, like it goes pretty quick, and before where it was giving me the little error message with the correlation ID.
Yeah,
So it just kind of went through immediately and said, I'm going to run that. So I bet if we just
got
sit
it.
here and watch, it should come back
Oh,
fairly
there it
quickly,
goes.
right? Like, hey, there's 2.0, and then it goes and runs that installer, and boom, 7-zip is back. So that part's pretty nifty.
It really is. This was kind of
All
fun.
right. All right. Well, that is VM Applications, the janky way. Brought to you by Microsoft.
Perfect. With some UI enhancements. So if you're watching this, we had that UI feedback. Go. Yeah. If you want any more feedback, let us know.
Yeah.
But no, thanks, Scott. That was fun playing with that. I honestly had no idea about those, and I can definitely see some areas where that is helpful over either gold images or even instead of doing like custom script extensions and all that to do DCS or something like that for installs.
Yeah. Like I said, another tool in the
Or
toolbox.
DSC, not DCS. Desired state config. DSC. Got to get my acronyms right.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, thanks. And with that, an hour and 20 minutes, Scott, and we were able to deploy it with a few issues.
An hour and 20 minutes, and we were able to deploy 7-zip. Remember, kids, don't ask yourself what could go right with the cloud. It's or what could go wrong. It's what could go right.
Could go
Something
right.
like that.
Awesome.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks, Scott. Go enjoy your weekend. We'll come
I'm
up with
off
a new
to
one.
the rest of my day, and I'm going to delete a resource group.
All right. I'm off to the rest of my day. Do a podcast recording here a little bit later. And we'll come up with another topic, or if people have a particular tech or topic or technology they would like us to explore, let us know. Put it in the comments. Let us know in the Discord server. Reach out to us via Twitter, and we'll see what we can do. So
All right.
until next time,
Sounds good.
Scott,
Thanks, Ben.
we'll talk to you later. Thank you.